ScreenRant publishes 5 reasons we don't need an Alita sequel, with 5 other reasons we do. Correction, 10 reasons we do, ScreenRant. While Cinema Blend puts out an article about all the ways Alita fans can support the movie during these times. Yes, we do need support, and we do need a sequel. While Alita gets some support on Twitter from Twitter Movie saying crazy how Alita is the only movie ever, they're noticing Alita Army. While Redbox notices Alita is a dog lover and says another reason to love our Battle Angel. And finally, we look at 1923 Motorball training. Challenger posts this video, and it does kind of look like Motorball. It's actually pretty fun, and we'll give you the full details of that too. The Doctor is in. What's up, guys? Doc Ito here with an Alita update. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel, hit that bell so you don't miss any of Doc Ito's free repairs. Hit up our second channel link below, buy those Blu-rays, baby, and sign the petition on its way to 150,000 signatures. All these links below. So ScreenRant decided to troll all Alita fans, saying, Alita Battle Angel, 5 reasons we need a sequel, and 5 reasons we don't. Seriously? Come on, we need a sequel. But let's check out what they said, with their arguments for it being a standalone film. No thanks. Alita has many fans fighting for a sequel while others are hesitant. Really? I have not seen any of those. After rolling into theaters in 2019, Cameron and Landau's masterpiece, agreed, adapted from a comic book series, beguiled moviegoers with high-budget CGI, fight scenes, and a remarkable humanistic robot. It's not a robot. We are not bots. She's a cyborg, searching to find herself. Reason number 10. Needs a sequel. Many comic books. As a movie forged from a comic book, manga, there are many already established plot lines for a sequel to follow. If they stick with the manga, they would have a lot of issues to choose from, and Alita could serve as a catalyst for the film's own franchise cinematic universe. Yes, please, we need an Alita cinematic universe. That would be fantastic. So ScreenRant +1. I agree with this. Like DC created the DCEU and Marvel with the MCU, Alita has the platform to launch its own franchise. One step at a time, let's get that sequel first. Number 9, does not need a sequel. A story about finding oneself. Alita has a self-discovery plot arc where the teenage main character is forced to understand who she is in a coming-of-age film. The nature of these stories is that they're meant to be standalone narratives, like The Perks of Being a Wallflower, and Alita's plot arc has followed the same pattern, ending with her figuring out who she is, but also confidently moving forward with her life. Well, nope, I disagree. While the movie was made to be a standalone film, that was Cameron, Rodriguez, and Landau's intention. It is not meant to finish the story here. Yes, it stands on its own legs. She has discovered who she is, but we want to see the next steps, and there is room for growth in the story. We need to see Alita growing in her skin, and for those who've read the manga, you can see there is so many different ways this story can go, and Alita's character becomes more complicated as the story arc continues. So no, we are not over just because she's found herself. Number 8, needs a sequel, Nova. Nova's character was introduced at the end, with his final appearance unmasking himself. This introduction begs for sequel, where the sequel character can be deeply ingrained in the plot. The final scene has Alita getting ready to win her match, looking up at her ultimate foe, Nova. It's simply taunting the audience for the idea of a sequel. Absolutely. And Nova is super interesting as a villain, if we can even call him that, in the follow-ups. His relationship with Alita is really quite remarkable, and it'd be great to see how Cameron and Rodriguez put that to film and simplify it for a movie. So yes, we need a sequel. Number 7, does not need a sequel. Come on, ScreenRant. Wrapped up most loose ends. While Alita was tasked with conveying a semi-realistic story about a battle warrior robot. Come on, not a robot here. The film had its work cut out in terms of building a dynamic story that wouldn't just introduce the complex world, but explain everything fully. If audiences look past the pseudo-tech and laws of physics, the film actually wraps up its loose ends so well that a sequel might add more knots and loose ends that are disregarded. Come on. Loose ends, they are not wrapped up. We want to see more. We want to see what happens with a whole bunch of characters, bringing us to number 6, needs a sequel. Not all loose ends were wrapped up. Well, we're kind of flip-flopping here, but okay, let's go. While most loose ends were wrapped up, the movie lacks some serious clarification, like why would they build a teenage robot to serve as a military robot? It's not a robot. Also, while the ending begs for story to be continued, it's difficult to argue against adding on another follow-up film. Without a sequel, the ending is rather unsatisfying. Exactly. There's lots of loose ends. What happens with Zapan? What's going to happen to Doc Ito? Is Alita getting up to Zalem. I mean, literally, that's how the movie starts, with a big scene of the opening. We gotta see what it's like up there. There's a ton of loose ends. Number 5, does not need a sequel, but perhaps a prequel? Okay, I can agree with this. Though, throughout Alita's quest to remember who she was before Doc Ito built her, she recollects snippets of her past as a super high-tech warrior. Though important to the plot, these memories don't leave enough of an impression for viewers to completely understand where she came from. Perhaps instead of a sequel, it would be worth looking at her past and the fall. This would give a lot more context to the world she lives in, the purpose she was built for, and how she ended up disembodied in the waste pile. So yes, absolutely, we want a prequel. I'm pretty sure the way the sequel would happen, though, would be they would show us what happens next with extended flashbacks. So essentially, it would be a prequel sequel. The way I would direct this movie is I would start either on Mars or during the battle during the fall, with about 5-10 minutes setting up the scene, giving us the backstory of Alita before going back to Alita probably a few months in the future, and then filling in all of the other details while moving the story forward, at the same time moving the prequel story forward as well. And I think that's what they're going to do once the sequel comes out. So yes, we will actually get both a sequel and a prequel in the next movie. Number 4, we need a sequel, Alita's motivated stance during the final scene. To follow up a point made earlier, the warrior stance that Alita positions herself in during the final scene begs for more to come. It's visually dynamic and shows the audience not only has the battle angel discovered who she is, she's also confident in her abilities and ready to take on the world. It's a classic way to tie together the formal ending to a coming-of-age narrative. Yes, I'm okay with point 4 ScreenRant, +1 for that. But does not need a sequel and origin story as a standalone. Again, flip-flop. As an origin story, Alita is meant to simply introduce the character in a quest for self-discovery. It could be argued most films that center around the main character discovering who they are don't necessarily need a follow-up film to build the story out. As a standalone film, the production is solid. Of course, we all agree this production is solid, but it is not meant to be a standalone film. There are too many tie-ins we want to hear more about. Number 2, needs a sequel, origin story as a starting point. While there's some reasons to not make a sequel based on the fact that the narrative is an origin story, Alita could benefit from an additional quest beyond recognizing her origin. The nature of a story is to get the audiences to acquaint themselves with a new character that is meant to be a member of the larger franchise. This is what Avengers and Justice League did. Yes, we need a sequel. Number 1 does not need a sequel. Come on, most character arcs are complete. The setup was successful. Almost all character arcs are complete, whether it's personal growth like Doc Ito, completing self-discovery like Alita, or redeeming yourself like Sharon. Many of these main character stories were given some sort of resolution. Well, that's ignoring Nova, who was barely introduced, Japan. As we know, Doc Ito's story in the manga gets a lot more complicated, and there's a lot more to see. So, I mean, ScreenRant, I commend you for at least talking about a sequel. I think it's a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek troll. It's clear you do want a sequel, even with the reasons against. Some of them are pretty much reasons that you want to see more. So what can we do to try to get that sequel? Well, Cinema Blend put an article here, all the ways fans can support Alita Battle Angel right now during all of these times that we live in. And Cinema Blend's been very supportive of Alita Army and the sequel effort. So let's check out what they said. While the world has scaled back in terms of outdoor activities, it doesn't mean efforts to support Alita and a sequel need to stop. As any good army will tell you, you need to adapt and overcome circumstances. So let's look at some ways to get our favorite cyborg right from our own home, how to support her. And Cinema Blend knows not to call her a robot. Well done. It's an easy task, especially since many of these efforts have already been online only. Since nothing as extreme as renting a plane to fly a banner high in the sky can happen right now, the options are going to have to be pretty creative. This is Alita Army, and creativity has always run through the veins. So let's see what they say. So their number 1 idea is stream and rent Alita, of course. Pretty easy, tried and true effort to support a movie. It's going to bring revenue to the company, and ultimately that's what they really care about. How much money did the first movie make, and how much will a sequel make? So yes, of course, anytime we rent or stream it, it'll help, even on HBO if you have it. If you stream it on there, it'll get their numbers up, seeing that Alita is generating views. And that's pretty much what they said here. And they talk about renting it through different outlets, which again will help. Buy or send a copy of Alita. If you're a really fan, you may or may not have a copy of the film in various formats. Think about buying an extra copy of the film and giving it to a friend. And of course, they talk about the limited edition, the art book, steelbook. My favorite is the steelbook version, and if you have a 4K UHD player, the quality is incredible. If you know someone that needs to see the movie, the best course of action is surprise them with their own copy. Not only are you going to be able to talk to them about the movie afterwards, you can always look at the bonus features and everything, and of course that'll bring revenue to the studio too. Read the Alita novels. This is cool. So special features go a long way to telling about the backstory, but really look at the novel. And I always link these below. I've actually not read the novel. I've read the Doc Ito's journal, which is a kind of like a mini novel, which is very interesting. But the novel will give you a tie-in to the movie. There's the official movie novelization written by Pat Cadigan as another version of the story we already love. And there's 2 other books. The first is Iron City, which looks at Ego, Hugo, and Vector before Alita is revived. And then the last book is Doc Ito's journal, which I had a review of and dramatic reading, which I'll put a card here in the top right corner if you want to look at that. And of course, read the original manga, which is really going to tell you what the true story is and the source material for this movie. I have no doubt they're going to simplify things for the sequel movies, but it's definitely fun looking at where the story goes, although things do get a little wild and crazy, so fair warning. Though Kishiro's original manga was retitled Battle Angel Alita, it's the same version as what inspired Cameron. You can pick up the series or get the deluxe box set. And then, of course, we've got The Last Order and Mars Chronicle following up the initial story. And you'll get an entire picture of Alita's past, present, and future. And what Alita Army is best at, keep tweeting about the potential sequel. The final suggestion is, of course, tweeting. Even Twitter Movies has gotten into the action in a recent message. Realizing all of Alita's Army's efforts, Twitter Movies, crazy how Alita Battle Angel is the only movie ever. Absolutely, and we're asking for them to join us, become one of us, join our Alita Army, because pretty much any Twitter movie poll or thread that is out there is going to end up being full of Alita references, which is exactly the way things are going to be from here on out. It's only fair the legions of Alita Army continue to get the word out on developments, retrospectives, and ways to keep fighting for the sequel. John Landau wants the voices heard, and it's an effective way to keep the world spinning in the meantime. It's all fair game as long as you're tweeting something positive and constructive. Yes, absolutely. I've been saying this from the beginning. We want to stay positive, and we will continue to support Alita because we do not stand by in the presence of evil. If there's going to be any movement on the planned trilogy, it's not going to be through flame wars. Digital diplomacy is key, and no one should ever forget that. So get out there, do your part, let the world know that Alita Army still stands tall, and we're ready to give the world a hopeful distraction from these difficult times. So thanks to Cinema Blend for another great article supporting Alita and the sequel efforts. And of course, we're going to continue to fight. Even Redbox got into the act in National Puppy Day, saying that Alita with the little dog is another reason to love Alita. So here's this Motorball 1923 video. I mean, these look pretty ingenious. Precursors to rollerblades. They're just pretty much strapping on a wheel. And I will say it looks exactly like in the movie. I mean, pretty close. So I think we're going to see some 1920s steampunk Alita type thing from an art standpoint. I think she's probably going to use a sword rather than a stick to propel forward, but pretty neat. We know Alita can use anything as a weapon, and I'm pretty sure we're going to see some art in the near future, especially with the first reply from Lou. Ooh, Alita 1920s attire sounds fun. Lou being an artist illustrator, so hang tight. I'm sure we're going to see some of it. Of course, we're going to continue to support her and all of the efforts. So stay tuned. We'll keep you guys updated. Remember to like and subscribe. Remember the second channel, all the links below, and stay safe out there. God bless. We'll talk to you soon. Doc out.